One of our viewers from Ozark, Missouri hit us up and said, how do you view the 2018 coaching hires 5+ years later? It seems like there were more misses than hits. Dude, they were all misses. This is insane. They were virtually all misses. So if you're listening on podcast, you don't get to see this TV 14/TVMA style graphic we're putting up of a who's who of failed coaches. 2018 taught all of us, it should have taught all of us valuable lessons. So I'm going to go through some hires at the Power 5 level. And I want you to think about this. Arizona hires Kevin Sumlin. He goes 9-20. Arizona State, Herm Edwards, fired after going 26-20 and a bunch of scandal. Chad Morris didn't even win a conference game at Arkansas. He's out after 2 years. Dan Mullen at Florida, probably one that they want back at this point at Florida, but nevertheless, Mullen commits the crime of going 34-15 and he gets fired. Willie Taggart lasted 2 years at Florida State. He's out. Scott Frost, can't miss Scott. He missed 16-31. I think all 31 losses were by one possession. He's out. Matt Luke, interim, and then a couple of years at Ole Miss, and then he's out in 2019. I'm going to come back to Cristobal. Jeremy Pruitt, either 5-19 or 16-19, depending on whether you count the revoked wins from the NCAA. He got fired a couple of years in. Jimbo lasted a little bit longer. He just got fired, 45-25. And then we had Chip Kelly, who just threw up the deuces at UCLA, so he's now a coordinator at Ohio State. And the only one who kind of sort of left on his own terms was Mario. He gets hired at Oregon, goes 35-13, and then he takes the Miami job, and Oregon wanted to keep him. So Mario Cristobal was the only guy out of 2, 4, 6, 8 to 11 at the Power 5 level alone that even lasted more than a couple of years, much less left on his own terms and is still around, like gainfully employed at the position that he was hired to be in. Wow. What you look back at that cycle, and here's what would be embarrassing. Fortunately, we had not started the show yet. What would be embarrassing is if you went back and listened to what you said about him. I learned a lesson. It's the 2018 protocol. That's how we call it around here. The 2018 protocol is be very careful heaping praise when new hires happen. It's a happy day anytime a new coach is introduced. Boston College just introduced Bill O'Brien today. Okay, it's a happy day because everyone's glass half full and everyone is focused on the best possible scenario, which rarely plays out. So Meemaw had it figured out a long time ago, talking about coaching searches. She said, a cracked glass can still be full if you pour fast enough. And that's exactly the mentality a lot of people have when a hire is made. There are cracks that should be obvious. There are flaws in the hiring process, or there are flaws in the situation that coach is being plugged into that should be obvious, but they're not, because I am including myself here, guilty on occasion, sometimes choose to just pour too fast. And so there are cracks in the glass. It's not totally shattered. There are cracks in the glass. And if we just poured some water in there and watched, it'd leak out pretty quick. But what are we doing? We're pouring faster than it leaks. So that thing looks full. That thing looks full. Chad Morris looks like the right hire at Arkansas. I have sold myself on it. He's the right hire. Chad Morris, out a couple of years later. Where was that on here? Chad Morris was 4-18, man. Oh, just an all-time debacle of a hire there. I'm not banging on Chad Morris. I'm just saying that's one of, as you saw, a long list. I mean, Florida State hired Willie Taggart, and there were cracks everywhere. And yet, it was just ignored him. Just ignored him. So, no more for me. That's why when Michigan elevated Sharon Moore, a lot of you picked up on hesitance in my voice. I didn't talk about this actually, but I got a lot of feedback from folks saying, why don't you sound sold on Sharon Moore? Well, it's because I'm not sold on Sharon Moore. But it's not just about Sharon Moore. It's about the entire picture. There's a world where Sharon Moore just isn't qualified and he doesn't cut it and he's fired in a couple of years. There's a world where he succeeds. There's a third world over here, though, that's all too often the case where maybe Sharon Moore was good enough, but maybe he was put in a no-win position. Let's say NIL is not fully in the place it needs to be. Let's say there's friction in the athletic department. This is not a Michigan thing. This could be an any university thing. And let's say Sharon Moore's out after a couple of years, but then if you sit down with him and you talk to him, he tells you, Josh, I have a healthy amount of blame at my feet, but I really feel like I never had a shot. And then he just takes an hour and lists a bunch of stuff that was happening behind the scenes that you were never aware of. You listen to it and you say, wow, well, now that you put it that way, I don't know many people I could have dropped in that situation that would have succeeded. And there have been coaches recently that have been fired. And look, it is what it is. It's a bottom line business. I'm not here to ask you to feel sorry for them, but if you knew what the situations were behind the scenes for some of these guys, you'd sit there and say, wow, I'm not going to bang on him. He's not the one that's at fault nearly as much as this person that created an untenable situation. Sometimes it's sour grapes. Sometimes it's excuse making. Also, there are other coaches out there winning, and they've got a metric ton of flaws all around them, and they're getting it done in spite of that. And I understand all that. That's why very much it's a case-by-case situation. But the 2018 hiring cycle taught me, don't just be lapping up the Kool-Aid at the press conference, because everyone wins their press conference. If you lose a press conference, man, then you're really in for it. So, yeah, I'm not gonna be pom-pom wavers so much in the future. Like DeBoer, I think I was pretty effusive in Alabama's hiring of him, but I'd be effusive in anyone's hiring of Kalen DeBoer because he's got a track record. He's done it now. I actually really, really believe in him. And I'm pretty sure Alabama is all on the same page when it comes to winning down there.